Elias J. Williams here of SaintsFootballTalk.com. And I think I'm going to start a new segment that I'm going to try to stay, or that I will be consistent with. And I'm thinking of calling it Monday Evening Quarterback, because I like to be different. Not to mention the main part of MEQB is the me part, meaning I'm controlling this shit, so I do it when I want to do it. So Monday Evening Quarterback, but we going and the purpose of it is to get over the initial reactions from the game, all right? And where you get some time to take a step back from the emotions and see more of the footage, look at some of the all 22, get you can't really say a full picture because you don't know what the coaches were thinking and play calling, and you can only assume those things, and yet you can see a little bit more than initially. And so the Monday Evening Quarterback will be a chance to go back and kind of filter all of it, make sense of all of it, and then get it back out to you. So that being said, welcome to the very first iteration of that. uh, so I'm going to look at what I see so far offensively and defensively for this team. As I think what's obvious is they are looking for a identity, a winning identity at that. And you saw the first game, there was a little bit more pass heavy approach. Rattler still performed well, but it didn't amount to them, scoring a lot of points. Not much aggressiveness there. The second game, a little bit more run centric. Oddly enough, they still only called 3 deep passes, which was one less than the week prior. But the most important thing was that they found a way to establish a running game. They got away from it at times early, but once they settled into the running game, you saw that offense kind of move. And once the running game got going, the rest of the offense started to click. Radley and look, running the ball is inherently aggressive. Dropping back the pass is a retreating position. It's relatively passive. When you go on the attack, you give a guy like Fuaga, who, despite the knee, still had one of PFF's highest grades as a run blocker, because it allows him to have to be the attacker, then try to figure out what the other guy is going to do. One is putting a little bit more pressure, or at least one is harder for him to trust his ability to block a guy versus his ability to attack a guy. So part of the offense's identity needs to become a little bit more aggressive. In the the explosive game down the field, let's be honest, they've forced the ball to Olave a lot. Okay, a lot. And the receiving end of it has been mid. The return on it has been mid. Meanwhile, every time Rashid touches the ball, it's like boom, it's explosive. Maybe you need to start getting Rashid 8 to 10 targets a game and Olave 5 to 7 targets a game. Okay, maybe you need to shift who you're trying to force the ball to, or making a prime element in the game. Olave needs to be a complementary piece. Juwan Johnson redeemed himself. Still had some rough drops. It's like the week prior he was more consistent, couldn't just make the tough catch, but this one he made the tough catch, but The inconsistency wasn't there. So maybe the third game he lines it up. This is a guy that's not familiar with getting this many targets consistently in a game. They're really leaning on him. But again, more importantly, figuring out your best parts. I think Rashid is one of your better parts. And finally, on the offensive line, Ruiz is getting attacked. He's one of three players we'll talk about today that's getting attacked. And yet, you really don't. You could maybe start Torricelli Simpkins, but I think Staley made a good point when asked about Sanker last week. He said, as a rookie, you're never ready for your first game. And I think if you can avoid putting Simpkins in that position, the better. What holds more weight here is, as Rev has pointed out, the potential to kick Reduns to right guard when Penning returns and sit Ruiz. But you gotta get Penning back healthy. So for now, you gotta keep Ruiz as the starter. So the offensive side of the ball, again, we should probably highlight Rashid more, make Olave more complimentary, make the running game the main meal. I need the running game to be the red beans and rice, and I need the passing game to be more complimentary. Continue to rely on Juwan. The return has been there. But you got to give Kamara and Kendre the ball more and more consistently. Now, as we move to the defensive side of the ball, because what was good about the offense is that they actually found something that worked. And granted, the defense, dare I say, has part of their identity down. Defense has forced 30 second and long or third and longs. I think it's 20 third and longs, 10 second and longs. So they're getting in favorable down and distance. They stopping the run for the most part. They aren't, however, stopping the pass when the other team knows they have to pass. Now, I did some research on Staley. I wasn't really a fan because the deeper you looked, the more you saw issues. Everybody's going to remember you well when you do good, but when I researched that Chargers defense and what some of the players had to say about him, they were not fans. Not only of the defense, but of him in some occasions. And that's kind of alarming. But then the second portion to the alarm is that most defensive play callers are former defensive back coaches. Staley is a former linebacker coach. Now, you do know why most defensive coordinators are former defensive back coaches, and it's because they typically know how to tie the coverage to the front. They're skilled at it. They know how the whole thing works. Dare I say, there's a reason there aren't many linebacker coaches that end up being defensive coordinators. It happens. But obviously not as much for a reason. So when you look at that, along with a lot of the issues that cropped up was that the secondary consistently was put in kind of like no-win situations. And it was always like it was disjointed. This is a guy that worked with Derwin James. Had some playmakers in spots, and it didn't work out. Now, interestingly enough, one of the things that has come up consistent about him is He's complex. He likes to have an answer for everything that offenses can do. He can morph. And that's a good thing until you start seeing guys not drop far enough in coverage, or you see guys collide instead of who should be blitzing. It means that there's some lack of understanding there. Now, what do we do when there's misunderstandings? We try to simplify things. And ironically, his best defense with the Rams took place during the lockout, which likely forced him to simplify his scheme, along with having access to all world talent in Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Sure, that helped a lot. But for me, when you see a guy like Pete Werner having to play in reverse for 20 yards, 15 yards, depending on the depth of the drop, and it gets longer because he's starting him up at the line of scrimmage. So you're asking this guy to play in reverse and get to a almost a 15-yard drop from the line of scrimmage. That's a lot. How many players play fast going backwards? So if he's going to be a liability while being added to the coverage, the only way you can test to see if he can be an asset is by removing him from the coverage because the pass is getting completed anyway and adding him to the rush. Now, perhaps you get more one on ones. Or if you feel like Danny Stutzman could give you more of the coverage aspect where you don't have to change anything. 'Cause two things a coordinator can do. He can either change the scheme or change the play out. Just so happens, I think he should rotate some. I think he should use Werner more as a blitzer than in coverage. You should call him blitzing more often than you have him dropping back. But on the flip side, maybe you start rotating Stutzman in a little bit to see if you can get the coverage aspect out of it with Stutzman. Okay. And the reason I say that is because Werner and Isaac Yiadom, the final and third player we're going to talk about, Werner and Yiadom are the most targeted guys on third and long and second and long, and they're the ones who also have combined for a total of 9 conversions for the opposing team, meaning they were the person in coverage or somewhere near coverage when the second and long or third and long was converted. Specifically, just last week, Werner was the cause of a touchdown being caught by Jawan Jennings because he didn't do what? Get deep enough in his drop. Okay. So with Werner, I think you have the option of swapping him. I think at this point you have to bench Yiadom. I think it's a good opportunity to see if your fourth round pick in the young Riley can come in and play because Isaac does not look good. He's getting picked on. Just like Ruiz is getting picked on when they move Bosa on the inside. Just like Werner is being picked on, Yiadom is being picked on. You've got 3 options with each guy. Someone behind them can potentially play, but you gotta balance out when you're gonna do it. So if we're playing a game of start, bench, rotate, I would start Ruiz until Penning gets back. I would rotate Werner with Stutzman, and I would bench Yiadom for Riley. That's the player portion of the defense. Scheme wise, this is an opportunity for Staley to adapt and create his own lockout moment where he tweaks what he wants to be to who they are. And what I mean by that is he obviously wants to rush four. Thank God. Dennis Allen had a terrible habit of dropping three in coverage, or rushing three and dropping eight, and still getting beat. Rushing four and dropping seven is far less furious or infuriating. But it's gotta become clear right now that A, they're missing Chase Young, so they're missing their most explosive pass rusher. B, you're not getting home with four consistently. Quarterbacks having a lot of time to complete throws. So you want to be a rush four, drop seven, but rushing four and dropping seven isn't working for you. You need to go 5 and 6. Okay? It is what it is. It's not working the way you saw it designed working. Now it's time to swap up. Self scouting on both sides of the field will give them a better opportunity to form that winning identity that they're capable of having. This is a team that could probably win 6 or 7 games. Most importantly, the only 6 or 7 games they need to win are the ones in the division. And I think they can beat each division team because I think the coaching staffs, our coaching staff, I think is better than the Falcons staff, the Cardinals staff. Oh, I'm not sorry, not the Cardinals, the Buccaneers, and the Panthers. I think the staffs are better. And a lot of times, some of those games come down to who breaks first. I think it's a team that can win the division. But they got to square away who they are right now. And on offense, we want to pass and then run. On defense, we want to play coverage and bluff you. It ain't working. Run the ball down their throat till they figure it out. Be explosive down the field. On defense, light them up. Live or die. I ain't saying go Greg Williams. I'm not saying go full Greg Williams. That's not what I'm saying. We're not talking rush 8, drop 3. We're not saying that. We're saying that if you're in the 20% blitz area, you probably need to be in the upper 30s. Probably need to start getting to the upper 30s in your blitz percentage. I ain't saying hit half. I'm saying send 5 or more consistently. You do that, and I think you'll start to see a winning identity on both sides of the ball. Thank you again for joining me. Monday evening quarterback, Tuesday evening quarterback, whatever day today is one of them damn days. See y'all next week. Oh shit, I got to sign that over.